You finally decided to pick up watercolor painting as your hobby so you can relax and unwind and simply take a little bit of time for yourself. But even if you have just a little bit of time to paint, you might simply not know what to paint. If this is you, you're in the right place. Because in this video, I'll show you 12 quick and simple painting ideas and additional painting prompts ideas you can use whenever you want to paint. Now, because it's fall season at the moment, the painting prompt can be something like you going home after a rainy day. So the first thing you might think of is an umbrella. So let's start by painting an umbrella first. For this step, I'm mixing my two different yellows, lemon and Indian yellow, to get their mid color. But you can of course use any color of your choice. Dilute the pigments with a little bit of water so you can spread out the paint more easily and then start outlining a curve. This will be the top part of the umbrella. Next, you want to add the bottom part. Here you want to add 3 curves. So load up your brush with the same color again and start painting those 3 curves like so. The pointy parts will be the tips of the umbrella's ribs. Make sure to make the curve that is in the center slightly wider than the rest, as this part is more visible to the viewer. From there, connect the tips with the middle part of the umbrella while following the curved shape of the umbrella. Now you can go ahead and fill out the white area with paint. But to make the umbrella more three-dimensional, I'm going to leave out a few white lines right next to the umbrella ribs to add some light reflections. From there, you can build up the colors with more pigments of the same color. So I basically just used the wet and wet technique and added more pigment right along the edges and the ribs of the umbrella. Now we just need to add the final details. For the spiky top of the umbrella, I'm just using my brown colored paint and lightly let it blend into the wet paint. If you don't like this effect, just wait for the paint to completely dry first. Using the same color, I also added the tips of the umbrella right where the pointy area of the curves are. Now we just need to add the handle and we're done. Here you can use the same color that you use for the fabric or use any other color of your choice. Because the yellow paint was still wet, I decided I will just add some more shadows to the fabric by adding just a little bit of my yellow-orange color. And this is how it looks. While it's raining outside, let's say you might also wear some boots. So let's paint them now. Again, you can use any color of your choice. Here I'm adding a little bit of my cool blue and green color into a small puddle of water to mix both together. And to make the color slightly less vibrant and more yellowish, I added a little bit of yellow ochre to the mix. Now it's time to paint. Again, start by outlining the shape of the boots first. For this step, think about the top part of the boot as if it's a vase, so the top part is slightly wider than the lower area. As you outline these 2 lines, begin outlining the heel and the front area of the boot. Think of it as if it's a brick with round edges connected to the shaft of the boot. And on top of the boot, we have an oval color. Once you have the outline, load up your brush with a little bit of water and start filling in the outline with watery paint. Again, to make the boot look more interesting and less flat, I decided to randomly leave out a few white lines here and there. I focused on the heel area and sole just to shape the boot a little bit more. This is similar to how I painted my donuts in one of my recent videos. Now you want to repeat this step with the second boot. Here I didn't wait for the paint to dry, I simply kept a little bit of white space in between as I painted the boot. and to make both shoes slightly more three-dimensional, I added a little bit more pigment into the white paint. So here I especially focus on the area right behind the first boot, so there will be the shadow, and then also on the lower part. Now you can keep the lining of the boots white, but you can also pick any color of your choice. Here I used a little bit of yellow ochre and applied it to the white area while the other areas were still wet, just to make the transition between those two colors more loose. Alright, now that you removed your boots, you might put on some cute house shoes. So let's paint those. To paint the house shoes, I'm using my carmine red and mix it with a little bit of yellow ochre just to make it slightly more peachy looking. Dilute the paint with a little bit of water so the color is not too dark, and start painting two oval shapes to create the base of the shoes. I made the middle part of the shape slightly wider than the heel and front area. Let the paint completely dry, and then you can go ahead and add some details. Here I'm using the same color to add the top part of the shoe and some additional details like the bows and the labels inside. And this is how it looks. Maybe now you would like to sit on the couch and read a nice book to relax. So let's paint some books. To paint the books, I'm going to use my leftover blue color from the boots, but you can use any color of your choice. Then load up your brush with paint and then outline 3 C-shaped curves on top of each other and connect those with 4 horizontal lines. These are going to be 3 books that you would see stacked on top of each other. If you want, you can also add some bookmarks with any color of your choice. Here I used some yellow and orange colored paint and just painted those thick lines for the bookmarks. Now to make the books look slightly more realistic, we can add a few lines to create a few pages. For this step, I diluted some water with a little bit of my black colored watercolor paint and painted thin horizontal lines here and there. Don't think about them too much, you just want to have those loose lines here and there to emphasize that this is a book. And then I connected the right side of the books with another 3 C-shaped curves that are on top of each other again. You can keep the books the way they are right now, but I decided I wanted to make the color slightly darker because they just turned out a little bit too pale for me. And this is how it looks. Another thing I always associate with the cozy fall season is a cozy warm sweater. So maybe you felt like it's a little bit cold and you're going to put on your favorite cozy sweater. So let's paint it now. I'm going to use the same colors that I used for the umbrella and create a simple outline of one of my favorite sweaters. And then I fill the outlines with the same colored paint. Once the paint was dry, I decided to add some texture to the design. So here, for example, I added this crisscross design, but you can keep it very simple. I actually changed my mind and decided I'd rather keep it simple myself. So I just reactivated the paint and added some shadows around the arm and front area using additional pigment. You can also add a hanger if you want, and you're done. Now this is my favorite doodle. How about painting a delicious pie? Maybe after all the reading, you felt like having a cup of coffee and a piece of pie, or you can have everything together, why not? So let's paint the pie. Let's start with the dough first. Here I'm using some of my leftover yellow color and mix it with a little bit of yellow ochre. Then load up your brush with paint and create a simple circle. It doesn't have to be perfect, you can even make the edges rather wavy to make it more realistic. Then you want to paint diagonal lines using the same color. This is going to be the dough placed on top of the pie filling. Now for the filling, I'm going to use my reddish brown and a little bit of my carmine red just to make the color look more delicious. And then I just fill in the white areas inside the pie using this mix. I intentionally left out a little bit of the white paper here and there to keep some highlights. It looks already so delicious, don't you think? Now, because some of the dough areas were still wet, the red paint bled into those areas, but I find it still looks really yummy. If you don't like this loose style, you can also just wait for the paint to dry before applying the filling. But even if it happens, you can still lift off some of the paint using a clean, damp brush. Maybe now you want to light a candle. This could be your next painting idea. As you can see, by just imagining your day step by step, you can find a lot of painting prompts that you can use and paint. For example, maybe you love drinking a hot cup of coffee the first thing in the morning. I know I do, so you can paint that. And it doesn't have to look realistic or have a certain style. The goal here is to just put some paint onto your paper. And these little doodles are small and it doesn't take much time to paint. So you can literally use anything that you find around you and paint. Maybe you love having a spa day once in a while. You can paint a simple sheet mask, maybe even some of your favorite beauty products, or just simple pillows where you love to lay down. They are also very simple to paint and you can create any design you want. Start with a simple shape first and blend out the colors towards the center to create the first layer. From there, wait for the paint to dry and then you can either keep it the way it is or you can add stripes, wavy lines, dots, maybe some writing or any other fun pattern of your choice. So think about different times of your day, your favorite holidays or times of the year and write down everything that comes to mind. These things can be a great prompt you can use whenever you don't know what to paint, but just want to sit down for a few minutes and paint something relaxing. So here, for example, I also painted a cozy blanket, wool balls, and socks because I felt like it just fits to the theme perfectly. But maybe you also want to paint, for example, you like to collect mushrooms during fall season, or maybe you like to knit, maybe you can paint another sweater, or maybe something completely different. Having a theme as a starting point can be such a game changer. Because now you just think of one topic and then brainstorm everything that comes to your mind. And I promise you will come up with so many different things and you would wish that you have more time to paint all of them. Which brings me to the next point. You might be thinking right now, okay Mako, I now have all the ideas on what to paint with watercolors, but whenever I have time, I don't really feel like painting at all because I'm drained. After a long day of working and dealing with all my responsibilities of my everyday life, all I want is cuddle up with a cup of tea or coffee and just binge watch Netflix and not move at all. So after all of that, how on earth am I supposed to have enough energy to create art? So glad you've asked, because in my next video, I'll talk about exactly that. In the meantime, you can check out these videos right here that will help you to come up with new ideas on what to paint. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!